Hi, we are Masha and Jeremy with No Limits Love.
Hello.
And actually today we're going to talk about our recent trip to, guess where? To Russia. And Jeremy, because this country is not a surprise to me anymore, so what kind of impressions do you have about Russia, about Russian women? Tell us more about that.
Well, first, let's just say, it's a little bit of a journey to get over there. And yes, wow, it was cold. But I very much enjoyed it. The scenic, all the museums, the buildings, the history. It is a very rich place to look back at where civilization started. Now, past the history lesson here, wow. When you look at the fact that there is 4 or 5 Russian women to 1 man, that's very true. It's very evident when you're in the subway, you're going anywhere. And they're always dressed fantastic. It doesn't matter if they are old or young, they always try to dress as best they can to really present themselves in a good manner. And for us, here in the US, that may be different in comparison to going to the grocery store on Saturday morning and finding people in pajamas. So we all were really aware of that. My favorite thing of the trip was to see the Russian men.
No, wait before telling us about Russian men. Actually, I was really concerned about my husband there, just because one night we went to a bar. It's a bar and it's a nightclub, and actually Jeremy was feeling pretty good there. I was just one of these tons of nicely looking women. And there was a very high competition in the air that you feel for some reason. And Jeremy was feeling very, very good, just because he approached me at some point and just you see, all these 3 women are now staring at me. So I was sort of scared, like what is going on with my husband, and probably we should really go back to the US soon, because he starts enjoying it. He starts enjoying his time in Russia. So, yeah, I was a little bit worried, but yes, this is absolutely true that we Russian women dress up nicely. We try our best as much as we can. And yes, this is an absolute true. This is a myth. This is a stereotype, but this is the reality that we have much more women in Russia than men. And actually, men, I'm sorry, but they die pretty early, like in their 50s, and you can just look at the demographics, so that's a fact. So talking about Russian men, what impressed you?
I've met Russian men around the world. However, being in Russia and actually seeing the whole range of men it's very entertaining. What's caught me off guard is many times we would joke, about Indiana Jones and having a satchel or, some kind of carrying device. And in Europe, that's a common thing. Well, in Russia, Russian men love these little purses that they hold. And it's entertaining because it's something unusual to me and something I wouldn't carry personally. However, it's a natural thing over there because they carry so many documentations with them and all their paperwork and anything that they may need for their daily lives. So the reality is that Indiana Jones had a really big one, but he was very cool at the same time. So they have these little purses. The thing about the Russian men, though, is that they're very cold when you're looking at them in their face. They're not very inviting. They always have that Dolph Lundgren look of Rocky, and when he was facing Dolph Lundgren in that movie as the boxer, just very strong and powerful. But in general, they are friendly when you start to talk to them, and all Russian people are very friendly when you get to talk to them, and they actually share a little bit of English with you, because I find that many of them actually too speak English. They don't, as we would not feel so comfortable speaking another language, not completely wise in another country. They feel the same. But generally had a good time and got to meet a lot of good people and had some great stories and learning all of the Russian traditions. There are a lot.
Wait a second, because you're just, it looks like going really too far. As you've mentioned, one point that I believe it's very critical, talking about how friendly Russian people are, and it regards everybody, women, both women and men. We can really appear to be pretty cold because you know that's a fact. In Russia, people smile much less and they appear to be rude. We appear to be rude in comparison to European people or to American people overall. And we are much more direct, and you know, that was also one of Jeremy's impression, like, why do people just go into you, bumping into you,
Absolutely.
and you need to make your way, you know? So this is that you actually need to consider when you are dating a Russian woman, or when you are on a first date, when you see her on a webcam. If she's not smiling 100% of the time, it doesn't mean that she's rude, or it doesn't mean that she doesn't like you. This is just the way we are. We weren't taught at school all this kind of, you know, body language, what it should look like, etc. So this is just a tip for you to consider approaching Russian people. But overall, yes, we're friendly, very friendly.
And Amasha is right. It's a whole different world of your proximities. People will walk right up in front of you in a line to go and do something. So you have to really set yourself as the priority, and just your path is the good path, and that's the way you're going to walk, because everybody else is going to try to push you along, you know, push you away from that. But in general, yes, they are Russian people are very funny at the same time. They have a lot of good jokes. And it's more entertaining is how to get the cultural difference and the language barrier in order to explain these jokes. But they're very genuine and very direct. But the hospitality is enormous there. With women and men all together, they really want to emphasize on taking care of you as a guest. So that could be something that you really may feel uncomfortable with, because when you go to somebody's house, if you're going to meet the woman for the first time, she may bring out all this food and all these drinks for you to sit down and, you know, have, and that's just normal. That's just how sitting down and have a conversation. Those are the things that take place.
Yeah. So Jeremy had a very good strategy approaching my friends and approaching my parents, just because he was constantly eating all this food that was on the table, and every time he kind of cleared up his plate, he got a refill, or you know, whatever. So yes, that is true that Russian people are very open, and once you enter their house, they try to make sure that you are comfortable, that you feel comfortable, and everything that they have in their fridge will be on the table. So you really need to consider this point, and this is probably the way, the things that Russian woman would expect of you. You know, this kind of generosity, this kind of openness, approaching other people, and if there are guests in your home, at your house, this is the way she's going to behave, just because we were brought up in this kind of culture and environment.
And that's very different, especially in the U.S. Sometimes in the South, you may have that kind of hospitality. However, anywhere else in the larger cities, everybody's very isolated. They don't do that so much. So it's a huge thing to get used to. But it's surreal at the same time. It's very nice to see that people generally, even though you may see them walking down the street and they may have a very hard outside, they're actually genuine people, and they do care, and they do take care of their guests and take care of their people. For instance, one of her friends that we visited, we were staying there very short term, so we stayed at her apartment with her husband, and they ended up giving us their master bedroom for that one night that we slept there. And they went and slept in the guest room, which had a fold-out couch. Typically, I know in the U.S., the majority of anybody I know would have a guest room or have an air mattress, but it would be very rare they would give up their bed and their space for somebody that's staying over at their house. Especially, like in my instance, I've never met these people before, and which is very generous, I would say. So.
Yeah. So summarizing, what were your major impressions of Russia?
It was very diverse place. I did enjoy meeting the Russian women. I do talking to them. They're very smart. There's got a lot of good insight from them as well. The Russian men, even though they have this beautiful country of all these different women there, they definitely are. They show their weaknesses and why it's very good for people outside the U.S. and men from outside the U.S. to find Russian women, and why Russian women look outside the Russia as well. But there's a great culture. They have great generosity. They do have big hearts when it comes to daily activities and visiting. But it was much appreciated of the visit.
Okay, so we highly recommend dating a Russian woman, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, and just go and check some other stuff, some other tips on our website, nolimitslove.com, and just let us know how we can help you.
Follow us on our social networks as well, on Google Plus and Twitter.